Pop-up live. Just got in a little bit ago. All I did was wash my face, put on some lip gloss, and I said, you know what? If I don't get this message out right now, I won't get it out. I went to say hi. How are you doing? I hope you guys are doing okay. How was your Thursday? How was your week? How you doing? How you living? This is Life with Marlene, your Florida vlogger. So on today, I just wanted to do a quick pop-up to talk about something that was on my head. I've been thinking about it for a little bit, but I wanted to say that, one day people will be sorry. One day it may be people that on what you call it, your relatives. One day relatives will be sorry because I have found for myself that I don't know why it is, but relatives can take you for granted for one reason or the other, because they're selfish, because they're unable, because they're immature, because they just don't care, selfish, whatever the reason may be. But whatever it is, one day people that took you for granted will be sorry when they finally meet up on what all the things that they thought about you, the lies that they thought about you, and now they find out later on that none of it is true. See, that's the thing that I have learned, is that relatives can take you for granted just because you're their relative. You know, not all people, because they're related to you by blood, actually care about you. They don't care. Hey, Lara, how are you doing? Welcome. And I found this the case for me, that unfortunately relatives can be very mean, very nasty, very unkind, very ungrateful, and it's it's a tough one because we love our relatives. Hey Christy, how are you doing? We love our relatives, or for the most part. I know I can say for me, I love my relatives, but at the same time, I think relatives take you for granted and they treat you disrespectfully. They feel like you have to do things for them, and they can be very rude, very nasty. And you have to really be careful about trusting your own relative. And I hate to say it that way, but there's no other way around it. You cannot trust all your relatives. I don't know about y'all, but sometimes relatives will just break your heart in a million pieces by the way that they treat you. Ugh. It's a terrible thing. I don't know if you've ever had your heart broken by your relative. Hi, Barbie. How are you doing? I don't know if you've ever had your heart broken by a relative, but it's really awful. Hey, Realist, how are you doing? Hi, MMS. I have had my heart broken by a relative, and I'm telling you, it is something terrible when you have somebody related to you by blood. This is your blood relative, and they stab you in the back, or they mistreat you in some type of way. It's awful. It's terrible. And the thing about it is, I think that relatives sometimes don't understand that you're actually human. You have feelings, you have a life. Everything you do doesn't have to pass their standard, or their liking it, or their, agreeing with it. It's not about them agreeing. It's just you have to let other people be themselves. And I think sometimes in a relatives unit, like with people call it their family, but I say relatives, um, they don't appreciate us like they should. And you can't just think that they're going to love you You just can't think that they're going to be there or one day they'll make changes and keep letting them take advantage of you and trample over your heart, use you for money, use you for one reason or the other, or want to live with you, crash at your place, and never want to give any money, never want to clean up, never want to do anything but use you. And for me, all those days are over. Setting boundaries is so important. You know, you know, um, that's one of the things that I had to learn for myself is that we had to we have to speak up for ourselves. We have to be the ones to set the boundaries. We have to be the ones to say, I'm not taking this, you know? I know it's crazy, realist. We have to be the ones to set the boundaries for our relatives. We have to be the ones to say what we're going to allow. And it's difficult because for one reason or the other, it's like you just love your relatives, but at the same time, you got to open up your eyes and understand that they're never going to change. They're never going to treat you right if they haven't already. And if it's always they're making an excuse, it's like they're always making an excuse for their poor behavior. They're always making an excuse to why they can't show up for you, but they most definitely want you to show up for them. They most definitely want you to show up for them. They most definitely want you to do kind things for them. They want you to bend over backwards. They don't care if you're tired, if you're hungry, if you can afford stuff or not. Hi, Real Odds and Events. How are you doing? Welcome. They don't care, how you feel. They don't care what you're going through or dealing with. And that's why I titled this, One Day They Will Be Sorry. I had to start off talking about relatives because that's one of my biggest pet peeves is people who are ungrateful, disrespectful, enabled, and just rude. And they think that you have to deal with their nonsense and their foolishness. And if you give them a taste of their own medicine, if you start giving them back the energy that they give to you, now they're mad. Hey, Miss Purple, how are you doing? Welcome. Happy Thursday. If you start giving people back the energy that you give, I don't understand. And I asked them that. I was like, why are you mad for? But what are you mad for? I'm doing the same thing that you have been doing to me. What is it? There's no difference. See, when people start getting a taste of their own medicine, like say for instance, they don't want to call you, they don't want to talk to you, they don't want to support you, they don't want to do anything nice. When you cut people off from their toxicity and you don't let them in your world anymore, now they call themselves being in their feelings. They call themselves doing all kinds of things and saying things and making and just being really messy. That's all it is. People just are messy. And unfortunately, it's relatives sometimes that are extremely messy. And I'm sorry to all of my Gems family that have to deal with messy, ungrateful, narcissistic, controlling, jealous. Now, I know I usually don't come on here like with negativity. I try my best not to, but I don't think this is negativity. I think this is real life. And I just wanted to bring it to the Gems. And I want to say anybody who has relatives and they only call you when they want money, when they're upset, they only ever call you when they're down on their luck, when the odds are against them, everybody's against them, everybody hates them. When in actuality, if you find out the real and true story, it's not everybody against them. It's that they made bad decisions. It's they did something and now they're suffering with the consequences of their actions, but they won't say that part. There's zero accountability on that part. And that's why I said this title, one day they will be sorry. First, we're starting off talking about our relatives. One day your relative will find out how good you were. Now I'm going to go into romantic relationships because this is a big one. Unfortunately, there are so many good people out there. There's so many good women and good men, and they don't know how to appreciate a good woman, or they don't know how to appreciate a good man. And I feel like it's disgusting. I literally hate when people don't even appreciate. There's no gratitude. It's like there's the expectation, like you have to do something for them. You have to do it because that's your husband, that's your wife, that's your girlfriend, that's your boyfriend, or whatever the case may be. Just because you're in a relationship with somebody romantically, nobody has to do anything for the other. You do things because you care about people or because you support. And no, you really have to pay attention to the red flags in relationships, that even in a marriage there's toxicity, and maybe they've just started showing you their the mask dropping off. You've just started to see the red flags and the flaws in the person that maybe they didn't show you while you were dating, or they didn't show you until maybe you moved in together. You didn't find those things because a lot of people are really good at hiding things, but we ignore those things in our head, right, that tell us like, is something not right about this person? And I know I'm being 100% honest. I'm guilty of that. Like when the energy, like so, I used to say like one time, like something is not right about them, but I didn't have any reason. But instead of listening to that gut instinct, instead of listening to how I was feeling, we start to blame ourselves. Ladies, I can't speak for gentlemen, but because I'm not a man, but I don't know if that's the case for men too. Like you feel like something is not right about that person, but you ignore it. You ignore it. Yeah. So it's that's the thing, and maturing and growing up and being transparent and honest with myself. I had to say that some situations that I have been in my life is because I doubted my instinct. I ignored the red flags, or I listened to what somebody was saying instead of paying attention to their actions. Drop the mic. See, a lot of times we don't pay attention to the actions of a person when that's the most important thing. They have already shown you who they are. They've already shown you what they do or won't do. They've already shown that they don't support, that they don't care. And we call ourselves talking about they love us, or how much people, women and men, waiting for somebody, they want to marry them and they don't feel the same way about you. Hmm. Pay attention, ladies and gentlemen. Pay attention to the energy, pay attention to their actions, and also pay attention to the way that they talk to you. I know usually we think about respect being more geared towards men, but women too. You got to be careful how you talk to somebody that you're in a relationship with. You got to be careful. You can't just be snapping off or saying things like it's a joke, like saying things like nasty little things and saying it like it's funny, and it's not. And what I have learned as I've matured is being accountable for myself. And I don't know about you all, but this right here, learning to shut your mouth, That's one of the hardest things when you're in a relationship, especially when someone does something and it ticks you off. When you really find out how mature the person you're in a relationship with is. If somebody is mad with you and they don't go off, they don't cuss you out, they don't do all kinds of crazy stuff, then that's a relationship that you can let some things go and let some things slide. But you got to have some honest communication. But there are times in a romantic relationship that you can't you can't work things out in that romantic relationship because they're crazy. There's that. They're crazy, they're toxic, they're jealous, they're controlling, and I have to say, oh, let me see. Reels put, let her put trust. Real says you can sense the toxic energy from some folks. Yeah, you can feel it. That energy is right there. And that's why when it comes up in your spirit and you're like, it's something. I don't know. I can't put my finger on it, but I know it's something not right and odd. But you still continue to be in that relationship with that person because you don't want to end it, because you don't want to be lonely, because you're listening to what they're saying and everything that they're telling you is a lie. They say they're going to do this, they promise to make changes, oh they support you, oh they love you. It's all talk. And I've said this before, less talk and more action. That's what you need in a relationship. All relationships. Less talk and more action. Don't talk about what you're about. Prove it. Prove what you're about, okay? That's so important. Okay? Hey, Butter Roll Boutique, how are you doing? Happy Thursday. It's more about, just talking the talk. It's about walking the walk. And a lot of people will always talk about, hey, can't stop. How are you doing? Welcome. Appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. Um, a lot of people talk about how much they love their mate, or their boyfriend or girlfriend, or you know whoever they're in a romantic relationship with. That it's one thing to talk about loving somebody, but it's a whole nother thing to prove it by the way you treat that person, you know? And that's why I said that about this title. One day they'll be sorry. One day, the person that you were complaining about and saying they weren't this and they weren't that and they don't do enough, that's the very person that you're going to miss. That's the very person was the best thing that ever happened to you. See, but when you're in that mode, because I've been there, of being selfish and being jealous and being everything about you, and you don't want to listen or you don't want to make changes, later on you realize that you were the problem in the equation. Now I'm telling you that pill, it is a very bitter pill to swallow when you realize you are the problem. But I'm grateful for maturity. I'm grateful for, you know, elevation and knowledge. And, I'm grateful for all those things. That's why I can talk about stuff, because I have no problem saying there was many times where I was the one who wanted to argue. I was the one that wanted to make problems. I was the one that had a problem being slick with my mouth. But as you get older, as you mature, as you heal, you learn communication. You learn communication. You learn to be trusting when the person is proving it. See, I'm not talking about just trusting everybody. I mean, trusting people who deserve. Hey, Heather, how are you doing? Welcome. Appreciate you being here. Lara says, I changed my life too. Yes, Lara, I'm so grateful for change, maturity, and personal growth. Can't Stop says, I think liking your mate takes more than love. I always say that all the time. I think is the most important thing in a romantic relationship is friendship, you know? And my mom used to always say that all the time. And I never believed her because I wasn't in that space of personal growth and maturity. I wasn't there. And you don't get there until you get there. Hey Heather, how are you doing? You don't get there until you get there. And I am so grateful that I learned, okay? And I really learned knocking my head against the wall. I really learned to just sometimes you don't say everything that you think, okay? Especially if you know it's going to fall on deaf ears. Or, one thing about romantic relationship is you have to learn when is a good time to say something. It is not the time when somebody is upset or going through something at the moment or in front of other people. But when I was younger, I didn't know that. Nobody taught me that. I think in this life we learn like certain things. And when we hurt people, we learn, okay, maybe that wasn't the best decision. Maybe I should not have done that. But some people, no matter how much you talk to them, no matter how much you support them, no matter how much you try to fit someone into your life, sometimes it just doesn't work. Sometimes that's just not your person and you're trying to force the relationship. Hey, Angie, how are you doing? Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Happy Thursday. Have you ever tried to force a relationship? Mm, yep. I feel like I'm talking. Doretha says, you're talking about me too. Oh, wow. Yeah, I think that was the hardest thing for me is learning to yeah, just pause, just walk away, just no. And that when I say no response is the best response, that applies to so many things. Shutting your mouth will keep you out of so much trouble. There's a time and a place for things. And when things are calmed down, when you're chilling, then you can say, I want to talk about something. And then, you tell them how you feel. But boy, I'm telling you, when you are immature or in a bad mood, is not the time to be saying things because things are going to come out of your mouth that has nothing to do with the issue. And now you put your foot in your mouth and you're in a world of trouble. And you can't backtrack from when you say things and hurt people. Even when you apologize, when something is said, it's said. Angie says, I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. How's your day going? It's been awesome. Angie, thank you for asking. But that's something that, we have to learn as we grow up. And I wanted to say that to everybody, we get a year older every year, but are we spending our years as we are getting older with the right people? Yes, me too, Andrew. When I'm silent, I'm very dangerous because I'm thinking about something. I'm thinking about, yeah. So, yeah, when I'm silent, I'm dangerous. So, when I stop talking, everybody always knows run because I'm plotting something. Okay. Danger is coming your way. But also at the same time, we can't just say everything that we think. And it's a power, the words, the power of our tongue. It really it really can hit somebody hard, even though maybe you were thinking about something, but sometimes the words come out the wrong way. Or if you're upset, you just say things. And then when you see the expression on their face, you already know that you have done something dangerous. And some of those things you can't come back from. Some of those things can end a romantic relationship just by a word that you say. So, just a word of caution, be careful because if you have a good person, You know, you can't just pick up a good person out on the street. Contrary to popular belief, people always say, "Oh yeah, it's lots of good people out there." Where you can't just find them just like that. Yes, they may be out there, but it's like looking for a needle in a haystack. And that's why I said if you have a really good person, somebody who's kind to you and loving to you, respectful, loyal, you might want to work on that relationship and not just think, oh, I can do what I want. Take them for granted. You stop doing the things that you did when you were dating. You stop with the flowers. You stop putting yourself together. Don't even get me started with the weight. You start relaxing, eating off the chain, just eating everything. You still got to put yourself together. hmm You still got to put yourself together. You still got to do the things that cause that person to be attracted to you, ladies and gentlemen. We want to look at some, let's be honest. Let's be real. Nobody wants to look at somebody that doesn't put themselves together. Yeah, I understand, kids happen, got responsibilities, you work, you're tired, but you still got to give your person something good to look at. Put yourself together. I'm not saying you got to look like a supermodel, but keep yourself together. I call it keep them looking. Keep them looking at you, okay? Give them something good to look at. But anywho, let's move on to the next part of this. One day they'll be sorry, right? And unfortunately, sometimes like people will be in a whole good relationship. I mean, good. Like you got, a nice clean home, you got food, you know, you're getting taken care of. You know what I'm talking about. You're getting taken care of on a regular basis, and still you want more. They go out there and they have their indiscretions, and then they feel that they're still going to be there. They're never going anywhere. Negator Batman, you're moving on. So that's the thing, is that a lot of people don't think that, they feel like, sometimes people feel like, oh, I got them. They're not going anywhere. Hey, Miss Betty, how are you doing? Welcome. Happy Thursday. Isn't that how people feel? I got them. That's my husband. That's my wife. That's my girlfriend. That's my boyfriend. Nobody gonna want them. Really? Careful. Careful about when you have a good man. Careful when you have a good woman. Careful. Make sure you're treating them right. Calling, texting, flowers, looking good, keeping yourself together. Yeah, and make sure you're saying those things. You're important to me. I love you. All of those things. It's very important for a good relationship. If not, trust me, don't think you're the only person that won't find them attractive. Trust me, somebody's going to pick you up. Okay? Guaranteed. Okay, so let's go on to talk about friendships, right? I don't know why, but friends, that friend, I feel like on social media, that is the most overused word besides love. People say love too freely, and people say friend too freely, when really, are they really a friend, or are they an associate? These are some of the things that I had to learn as I grew up, as I got mature. I didn't understand the difference. I thought it was the same thing. But what I learned is that you can be a friend to somebody. They are no friend to you because they're not showing up. They're not calling. If you have to be the one to organize everything, if you have to be the one doing the calling, if you have to do the one, all the, no, then that's not a friend. And I'll tell you that, because I can be honest, because I'm a grown, mature woman. There was a long period of time in my life where I didn't understand that I had to be a friend to keep a friend. You can get a friend, but that doesn't mean you'll keep them. And I had to learn that I wasn't a good friend at that time. And that's why people left my life. They stopped being my friend because you can't just expect friendship. You just can't expect support and kindness and love. It's like, hello, do you show kindness, support, and love to them too? So that's one of the things, in maturity, in healing, and certain things that I have learned and grown into, and the light has been shown on me, and it was told to me, you're not a good friend. So I had to learn that. What is a good friend? And that's when I started to be able to retain friends. You can get a friend, but can you keep a friend? Two different things. And I think that sometimes when people leave you as a friend, where you really realize how much you had. And I can say with regret, there are some friendships that I'm really sorry that I messed up. Really, for sure, because of immaturity. Like, it was just about me, you know. Some things I just didn't know better. Sometimes you just don't know what you're doing. And sometimes you're just not good at communicating what you needed or didn't need at the time. Even saying things like in a friendship, you should be able to say, I'm going through something right now. I'll get back with you in a week or two. Where the immature me just ghosted them. Like, you just stop calling, you stop talking because you're only in your feelings because you're only caring about yourself. But what about them? What if they needed you during that time where you're taking 2 to 3 weeks off? Yeah, you can have your time where you said, I'm not going to be, the best friend for you, but you got to communicate that. I'm going through X, Y, and Z, and I need a lot of support. But that's what you do when you're healed, when you're mature, and when you're accountable. I apologized to some people for the lack of friend that I was, and some of them stayed, and other people said, I don't care what you were going through. You abandoned me for X period of time, and I've moved on. Enjoy your life. See ya. And I don't blame them. I don't blame them, because you're not just going to be put somebody on a shelf for months, even a year at a time, and then think that that person is going to be there available because they found somebody who would be their friend back. So that's one of the things about life, is that you learn that you can't just take people for granted, even in friendship. The simple things like, I was thinking about you. How was your day? What can I do to support you? Even telling them, I appreciate your friendship. That's very important. I know it's like, give people the things that you want to receive. I know I like when my friends say, I appreciate you being in my life. Thank you for when you did X, Y, and Z. So, appreciation, gratitude, and support. Is there something that I can do for you right now? You have to serve in all relationships, in every capacity. There has to be some serving, but also receiving too. You can't always have your hand out and expecting everything from a friend, or you will lose your friend, and then you're the one that's going to be sorry. I hate to say it, but it's happened to me too. And I definitely regret. And those things, I think, is what makes us better people. You become a better woman, or you become a better man when you step into those shoes and you take ownership. Okay, I did this, and I learned from it. I grew up, and now I'm going to do better. And then you do better. Then you do better. Okay. And unfortunately, sometimes when we have a friend and you can tell them what they're doing, communicate what you're going through, and It's important in friendship for you to say, hey, not assuming. And I think that was something that before I went to therapy, I didn't understand the weight of it. But when somebody says, "Can you be there?" it's not like a question. There's some things where they actually literally needed your presence there to support them, whether you wanted to go, whether you like it. When somebody asks you to show up for them, it's not really a matter of ifs or maybes, and that's something that I had to learn. Oh, I don't really like that, or I really don't want to go there. It's not about you. And I had to learn that it wasn't about me. But now I have some good friends where we can talk to each other on that level and say, I need you to be here because of X, Y, and Z. That's good communication. That's maturity. And also telling your friend when they do things that irritates you, and not just assuming or saying things like, they've known me all these years, they should know that that annoys me. But have you told them? Like one on one, had a conversation. When you do X, Y, and Z, this is how it makes me feel. I learned that part in therapy. When you do X, Y, and Z, this is how it makes. You're not screaming, you're not yelling, you're not saying you always. These are some of the words that you leave out. Any relationship, if you want to keep it, you never say you always, you never, things like that. Talking in those terms automatically shuts people down and they're not going to listen to you. So instead, you tell people, when you do this, this is how it makes me feel. Sometimes people aren't aware of when they do something that it affects you in one way or the other. But when you tell them, now they can't say, I didn't know. It's different after you tell them and they continue that same behavior. Then you have to make a choice how you're going to deal with this person or not. Okay. So that's one thing. When sometimes when you have a friend and they're not a friend to you, mhm, sometimes when you're not a friend to somebody and they walk away, it's really an eye opener, because you're like, what did I do? What did I do? It's like, I didn't even do anything. You feel you did nothing. You feel. But put yourself in their shoes. Did you embarrass them? Did you share something personal and private? Did you not support? Did you not show up when you said you would? All of those things you gotta hold. You gotta stand in your own personal truth and be mature. Can't stop, sis. Just learned something. Okay. Glad you learned something. And that's something that, I had to learn from myself, knocking my head against the wall, seeing people upset with me, seeing people cry, and also therapy and personal growth and maturity. I had to learn that, yes, sometimes it can be about me, but it can't be about me all the time. Sometimes you got to remove yourself, you got to check your emotions, and even if you feel emotional, you walk away for a moment, get your calm, and then come back, reconvene. Okay, that's something that if you care about the friendship, you'll put in the work. But if you really don't care how it makes somebody feel, if you don't care how you treat them, you don't care that you don't show up, I think you've probably outgrown the friendship, or maybe it was never a friend to begin with. Let's be honest. Okay. So let's move on to, I think I got one or two more points in talking about how important it is for us to realize about relationships when a door gets closed, and then they'll be sorry. Okay. So let's move on to, children. If you have children, okay, one of the things about being a parent is that you only see them as a child, right? Even when they're adults. So I've heard, don't have adults. children, but so I've heard, friends of mine have told me this, and it's like you have to remember that th- th- that you don't have the final say in everything once they're an adult. You know, you have to respect their boundaries, even if you don't agree with them, even if it's not your value, even if it's not your opinion, you don't like it, you still have to, respect is a two-way street when you have kids, but then you have to remember that those kids are now adults. And even if you have kids that are younger, still got to show kids respect too. Ask them how they feel. Would they like to do this? Because how would you feel if every decision was made for you? You wouldn't like that so much. I remember when I was younger and I used to be in that where all the decisions were made for me because you're young and you don't know nothing and I'm the one that choose. I'm the parent. You don't want to be, let's not be helicopter parents. We know better, we learn, we mature. And, one of the things that you have to understand is respecting the boundaries of your kids too. That's a very difficult thing to do when you are a parent, because you still sit and be like, you're, oh please, you don't know nothing. You still are looking at them and viewing them as a 2, 3, 5-year-old kid. But, even when they don't make the best decisions, they're still adults. You still have to talk to them with respect. You still have to be nice and kind and supportive. And you also have to learn something that I'm learning now is you have to be a role model. You can't expect something from them that you're not doing. Ooh, did I say that? Ooh, we don't like that so much, do we? You cannot expect something from your kids that you're not doing. That's called being a hypocrite. And it's a lot of people out there that are hypocrites. They talk about, oh, kids, do as I say, not as I do. No, we're not doing that. That's toxic. And you're teaching kids the wrong way, even as adults. They'll throw that stuff back in your face years later. Trust me, because I had years of therapy behind the things that my parents did and said, do as I say, not as I do. Trust me, it don't work, because kids are going to listen to what you do, not really what you say. So, and that's one of the things that I have seen. Like, I have friends, and now their kids have zero contact with them because they do not respect their kids' boundaries. Even when you are a parent, whether you have little kids or you have adult children, you still have to show kids respect. It's a two-way street. It's not just like how it was back in the day. I'm your mama, I'm your daddy, I'm your grandparents, I'm the adult, I'm grown and you're a kid. No, it never has worked that way. But it's some things that we learned growing up was toxic. And I had to learn that as I grew up, that not everything that I was a part of was good, was healthy, was positive. But now that we're older, we're more mature, we're adults, we take ownership of ourselves. So, just something to think about, because I know a few people and now their kids have zero contact with them because as a parent, they will do whatever they want. They don't care how they affect their children. You have to put yourself in their shoes, even if you don't like it, even if you don't understand it, even if it's not what you think they should do. It's still their decision and still their life. I know. I know. So difficult, because you don't want to be in a situation where you're blocked out of your kid's life or your grandkids' life because you are being stubborn, controlling, jealous, judgmental. It's easy to do, you know, and nobody's perfect, but we can always do better. That's what I want. That's that's the space that I am in my life right now. Is I know I'm not perfect. I'm not a perfect woman, but I know that I'm better. I know that I can apologize. I know that I'm teachable. I know. I know I'm teachable. Oh, you couldn't say that a few years ago. Somebody told me something and I was gonna go off. When I said go off, I was gonna go all the way off. Face red, screaming at the top of my lungs, eyes bulging, using explicitives, hmm, profanity. Yeah, using all of it. I'm embarrassed for the way that I used to act. I'm very embarrassed. But, you got to own the things you don't get it until you get it. And some people just take longer. But I just wanted to say you don't want to miss out on really great relationships because of your pride, because of your ego, because you think being judgmental, being toxic. And I always say, work on yourself before you'll be by yourself. Take it from somebody who learned the hard way, okay? Work on yourself before you will be by yourself. Complaining and angry and miserable at the whole world, when you learn, you're the problem in the equation, not the other way around it. And sometimes that's how we'll be, blaming everybody when we're actually the problem. Whew, it's a tough one, right? So let's talk now about this, shall we? When we talk about relationships, it's a very tricky thing because social media is a relationship, but it's not, because it's digital, and it's not like you can see the people behind the screen, behind the avatar. Some people you see because of the videos they post or the live streams they do, but you don't know people because you're not seeing them in day-to-day life and feeling their energy and things like that. But you have to be careful on all social media. I don't just mean this red app. All social media, you have to be really careful who you align yourself with. Careful who you align yourself with, because I didn't know that. I've been on this app since 2007, a really long time. When I first got on here, I don't know. I don't really know what I expected, what I thought, but it's a lot of things that I learned that has brought what it spilled over into my real life. You know, you can't believe everything you see on somebody's posts, videos, and live streams, because people will be out here being a whole character, or they'll be in on your video or live, and then the next thing they're talking about you, backstabbing, and then come right back in your face smiling. Got to be careful on social media. But one thing that I will say is, all my years of being on here, like 18 years now, I've learned to be careful what you post, to keep your word, and I've learned to trust what people do to you. Trust it and don't doubt it. Hey, Sirius, how are you doing? Welcome. That's what I've learned. I've learned to trust what someone does and not what they say. You will see how people will be in one person's video or on their live, and then you'll see how they act somewhere else. Trust it. And that's why I said, on social media, one day people will be sorry. One day they'll be sorry. It's the people who are the naysayers, the haters, the drama people, the people who put you in mess, try to sling mud on your reputation, tried to break your spirit, just tried to get you to stop, period. I can say without divulging things, because I'm not a messy person. But people think sometimes on this app that if they say something about you, it's going to get you to stop. And I had to learn determination, pushing through, pushing past, and not being in my feelings and making another person cause me to change my behavior, or feeling that because of something they think or feel about me that I have to respond. And I don't. I'm never going to stop being Marlene. I'm never going to stop being positive, a beacon of light. I'm never going to stop sharing my story. I think it's important to be authentic and be real. It must be tough for so many people on this app. They don't know who they are from one live to the next, from one video to the next. They're up, they're down. I'm convinced that people on social media, not all, but I'm convinced that some people on social media need medication, need need to be diagnosed, and need to have their social media revoked. You can never have social media again. Never. But we can't do anything about that. You're wonderful, awesome. I'm doing great, serious. Thank you so much. But to be honest with you guys, social media, I feel like, is a very complicated thing. You know, it can be beautiful and wonderful. You can gain the knowledge. It's all about where you allow yourself to land. You know, what you're going to allow yourself to consume, what you're going to allow yourself to believe, and to not let anybody transfer their negativity, their drama. You can always choose to click out. You can always choose to unsubscribe. But at the same time, those same people that used to be in with you, used to be supporting you, one day they will be sorry that they didn't keep alignment with you. Social media relationships or friendships are, sometimes it can be very hazardous and toxic. So, get in where you fit in. I know I'm talking to adults. So, just keep your eyes and your ears open. Pay attention to the energy that you are receiving with people. And if you see it's some double standards, you see that it's not what you like, then move along, move along. That's all I will say about that, because one day people will be sorry that they didn't support you. I remember when I first started on this app back in 2007. I don't think I started being a content creator, honestly. I first started off on this app back in 2007 as a supporter. And when I think when I got 50 subscribers, I think that was like back in 2007 or something. And back in the day, they used to have video response where you could respond to someone's video. And I didn't know that would make me a content creator. But anyhow, that's how it started. And I had something to say about this. I had something to say about that. And then I couldn't stop. Then I had a lot of things to say about a lot of things. But I did want to say to everybody, don't let social media affect this. You have to be careful what you're taking into your mind, what you're listening to, what you believe. Got to be careful who you trust, who you align yourself with. Yeah. Because it can affect you in a bad way. And for me personally, I'm not saying for everybody. I'm not telling you all what to do. I know I'm talking to grown people. I'm just speaking for Marlene. I only choose to align myself with people that keep on the same frequency at all times. If I find you like one day you're nice and good to me, and another day like you don't want to talk to me, okay, then I'll move along. You know, and unfortunately, sometimes on social media, people listen to this that somebody says about somebody else, and it has nothing to do with you. And there are some people who don't want you to be friends with one person, and if you're friends with them, they don't want to be friends with you. It's like this isn't kindergarten. Right? You can have multiple people that you support if you want to. Don't be controlled. That's all I'm going to say about that, and social media and all of those things. But, to be real and to be honest with everybody, it hurts sometimes when, you have to drop people out of your life, and it hurts on social media. I don't care what anybody says, it does. There's certain times where you have gotten close to somebody on this app by supporting them. You've put in your time, your energy, your effort, and then you get slapped across the face. You get a video made about you, a live about you, or you just get ghosted. Like they stop coming over, they stop supporting. And to each his or her own. Maybe you did something, you offended them. I'm learning it's not that serious. Don't let people get to you. But it's kind of irritating. It's kind of irritating to deal with people on social media that are immature, controlling, jealous, manipulative, liars. Yeah, yeah, I said it. There's a lot of people on this social media app that are liars, liars, manipulators, projecting their fears and insecurities. One thing about Marlene, you're not going to stop Marlene, because I'm not going to stop being Marlene. I'm going to keep being me. And I want to say that to all of my Gems family. Don't stop being you. Okay? Don't stop. Don't let another person, whether it's in a friendship, whether it's your kids, whether it's a job, social media, anybody. Don't let anybody treat you bad and then feel like you got to stick around. You may have got to cut ties with them. That's what you do when you're an adult. That's what you do when you're mature. Yes, realist. It's all about protecting that energy. You have to. You got to protect your energy. You got to protect you. You got to take care of you at all times. At all times. Yes. Yes, everybody ain't fit to run the course with they're not. And unfortunately, when you find out who somebody is and they're not who you thought they were, you're like, interesting. Sometimes you can just cut people off, block them, and be done, and you're cool. And other times it takes a little bit longer because you don't want to believe it. Okay? But believe it. Believe it. People will be a whole fake, phony, manipulator, narcissist, control, liar. And you could go on and on for days explaining what some people are, but they are who they are. And you can't change people. But when you're dealing with adults, it's different. Kids, a kid is young, they don't know stuff, they haven't learned, they haven't experienced life. But when you're talking about a grown person, I'm talking about people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and up, and they're still acting like a toddler. No, 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 nope. I have time. I have zero time and zero energy for that sort of thing. And people say it's not personal. Well, it's personal to me because I'm very serious about my life, and people making me feel like I'm in somebody's life. They don't even say hello. or you go to somebody and you support them, you're always there supporting them, and they never come to one thing of yours. Never. I know people are busy, but never. It's just like, okay. And you expect me to be in your video live stream every time, and never, not, like not even every 2 months. I'm not asking for anything unrealistic, but tap in once a season. I don't feel like that's too much. Maybe maybe it's because of the person that I am and what I give to people. And I have learned to stop giving and pouring so much into everyone and work on home first. Take care. Handle my business first. As Big Mama would say. Handle your business first. Okay? So that's what I say to you all too. Handle your business. Protect your heart, protect your mind, body, spirit, and don't forget about your soul too while we're at it. Okay, everybody, I'm about to get up out of here. Thank you for tuning in. I hope it was something I said, babbling on, was supportive, encouraging, therapeutic, healing, funny, something. So, appreciate y'all. Hey Nate, how you doing? Happy Thursday. I'm just about to pop off of here. But thank you. Thank you for sliding through. Make sure you check out all my mods in blue. They're all awesome. Go up the line from serious all the way up. Serious, realist, Nate, Butterroll Boutique. Check them all out. Nate the Great Podcast 2.0. Keep scrolling. Angie Hart, Heather Hunter. Check them all out. They're all awesome. And I thank every single one of you all for your support. And anybody who's not a content creator, I appreciate you all too. And those who in the background, in the bushes supporting me, I thank you too. You know, you know how I like to end every single life, every single live. Love your life and live your life. Love your life and live your life. Don't let other people stop you from living your life. Don't let other people and their negative energy stop you. Keep on going. Keep your head up. Be focused. Don't let these people distract you. Okay? And also work on you and develop some personal growth. Okay? Sending you love, light, and positivity as always. Until the next time, everybody. Yes. And appreciate your life. Yes, realist. Thank you for that. Shout out to the mods. Shout out to my channel members. Appreciate y'all. See you guys on the next one.